I'd like to spend a little bit of time this morning reflecting on Psalm 19. We don't often turn to the Psalms in our reflection time and worship, but this psalm is such a powerful message, has such a powerful message, I think, for us at this time in history. I think it'd be good to listen to it. The beginning of that Psalm 19 inspired both Handel and Beethoven to write some very powerful, beautiful music. The idea of the heavens declaring God's glory, of creation speaking on God's behalf, is very powerful. Most of us have probably stepped out the back door late at night and looked up at the starry sky and been humbled or moved by that experience. Most of us have seen a full moon rising up over town and been kind of inspired and feel the presence of something very powerful going on there. If you doubt that we look to nature for our inspiration, or at least that we're amazed by it, any stormy night, drive down to Pebble Beach. I do, and the parking lot's full because people come down to see the lightning flashes or the crashing waves, to listen to the wind and experience that in a big way. Or on a calm, flat evening down by the lake. All of us know the experience of the sudden appearance of a hummingbird, or to see one of many creatures that inhabit this planet in the wild, to experience and imagine them. Well, I want to begin today, things are going to be a little bit different because I wasn't sure about children and that kind of thing, but I want to begin today with a video that's about a little longer than we usually use, around 3.5 minutes. But what it is an invitation to listen to what God might be saying to us through creation. That's the question that I'd like you to meditate with as you watch this, because that's what the psalmist is saying, is creation without words speaks to God's people. The heavens declare God's glory, the moon speaks tonight. All of God's creation is speaking without words to us. And so this is a video that it just kind of explores all kinds of creation images. And it's an opportunity for you to just kind of breathe deeply, sit in a comfortable way and watch and reflect. And when we're done, I'm going to ask you, if you think God has something to say to us through creation, what would it be? And it won't be a rhetorical question. It'll be an invitation to have a bit of conversation about that. So if you can play the video, George. It's a beautiful video, I think, just by itself. But could we put into words what God might be saying to us through creation? Maybe something that came to mind watching this, or something you may have thought of before or during the video. Pearl. Can you shout? Sorry. I'll repeat it. I'm not sure people can hear you. God speaking about vulnerability of creation. Purity? Can you say more, Tracy, about that? What? And power, God being very powerful too. It's interesting, isn't it, that tension between vulnerability that Pearl talked about and power. Yeah. And beauty. Yeah. Anyone else? Care for you. Uh-huh. The things that we sometimes feel are important slide away when we're in the presence of that. Anyone else? A couple things struck me as I was watching it today. I hadn't thought of it before, but the one is the abundance, the just phenomenal abundance of good things on this planet. You know, we're so often preoccupied with scarcity, but I look at that, just the grand abundance of it all. And the other was diversity. We're often preoccupied with everybody should be the same, or, you know, people who are different than us are dangerous, or, you know, other things that are different than us are dangerous. And yet, the incredible diversity of creation. And although as an Alfred Hitchcock watcher, the bird scenes at the beginning were a little bit creepy, there was also that sense of community, you know, and like billions of birds all flying together that way. I think, how do they do that? God's creation speaking to us. All kinds of powerful ways. Well, the other scripture this morning is a story about Jesus going into the temple and flipping over the tables because he is angry about the defilement of God's temple, of God's house. You have made it into a marketplace. You have related to God's Spirit as though it was a commodity that you could buy and sell. And I put this idea together in my mind with what Sally McFaig, a theologian at the Vancouver School of Theology, has written a great deal about, which is an understanding of the planet, or perhaps even the universe, but she talks about the planet being the body of God, being God's body. And I can't help imagining how much more struggle Jesus would have, how much more righteous anger Jesus might have about the way we've commodified God's body, about the way that we have turned it into a marketplace, how we have understood God's body as something that we can take from and pillage without concern for what might happen with it. That's where those two readings came together for me today. Those two places where Jesus' words and the words of the psalm come together. The interesting thing that happens in this psalm is that it's all about creation at the beginning, and suddenly, abruptly, you may have noticed it when we were reading it, it goes to God's laws and how they're good for us. And I think, wow, this grand creation, God's law? Like, those things don't feel like they go together. But I think what the psalmist is talking about are the laws around ethics and morality, around how we live well in community. And by the expression of God's glory through creation, we also find our place in creation, our right place in it, and learn to behave and live in ways that respects God's creation, perhaps God's body in our lives. I asked you to hang on to those purple slips today, because at worship committee, when we talked about this season of Lent, that we would develop our prayer practice as a community. And so what we're going to do is today I want you to think about an aspect of creation. It might be a particular tree, or it might be the idea of global warming. It might be a particular creature that is endangered, or one that by which you're inspired. I'd invite you to write that on the little slip, and then we'll gather them up, and then we'll distribute them again, and we'll carry them with us as our prayers for the coming week.